There can be no distinction between one of the greatest action games ever made and, simply put, one of the greatest games ever made. For action games are video games in pure form, and Ninja Gaiden 2 is one of the pinnacles of the genre as well as the medium. A feat that Team Ninja and Itagaki-san set out to accomplish when developing it in a medieval torture chamber at Tecmo, back when their motto was simply 100% games, all in an effort to finally earn the prestige of the mountaintop shown off in their famous logo. Action games are about tribulations and non-stop testosterone, and by the end of the Journey of Carnage, Ninja Gaiden 2 leaves most games in the dust like the rival ninjas Ryu sends to the grave. As this Class A ninja walks off into the distance on a sort of victory lap, he puts distance between himself and other action game heroes, just as Ninja Gaiden puts distance between itself and the rest of the industry as the singular standalone achievement it is. This is my Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2 Platinum Journey review, but unlike most of the other videos made in this style, this is less about memes and more about finding meaning. It will be a detailed analysis of what makes Ninja Gaiden so important and more relevant now than ever before in the year of the ninja. It's going to be philosophical because that's what Itagaki, behind those rockstar shades and devious smile, wanted Ninja Gaiden to be. A lot of games are made around gimmicks. Ninja Gaiden is made for glory. Itagaki might have been born on April Fool's Day, but when it comes to game design, he means business. With the Year of the Ninja in full bloom, Team Ninja formally declared the character action games are back. For real this time. I can't think of a better time to hear that sentiment in this era of stagnation where everything wants to be like something else, be it a Souls-like, a roguelike, or some other kind of clone. But there's no cloning Ninja Gaiden. It's refreshing to see many newcomers proclaiming NG to be the hardest game they've ever played, but that could be because they become accustomed to the formulaic. They're not used to how action games push you and make you push back, with little to no restrictions for the player or the enemy AI. Most games look like they need TRT compared to Ninja Gaiden that was born to be on steroids. Even the Sigma version of NG2, alleged to be neutered by the toned-down enemy count, is a supremely well-paced experience with a huge challenge spike on the harder difficulties. I would even go as far as to say that the emphasis on quality over quantity is the right approach here. But regardless, any version of this game is phenomenal because the Gaiden is goated and uncompromising. Consider the subway section where they throw wave after wave of flying, fireball-spitting dragons in a claustrophobic space, with each direct hit dealing as much damage as a glancing blow, which is to say they kill you in one hit. Or the time they force 5 bosses on you back-to-back in a single mission, the projectile spam from off-camera. You think fighting Baal the Dragon is a challenge? Wait until you meet the Black Dragon. Few video game defeats feel as soul-crushing as getting to the end of a section and losing a moment's focus, making you have to do it all over again from the start. I'm not familiar with a Souls boss being able to insta-kill you twice in 5 seconds. A pure action game gives no damns about meter or stamina. There's one speed, which is go, or you get left behind. The movement system is blissful. It's weightless as if you were on the moon, but with the added rhythm of gliding across the water, like a ninja does. The sword play is smoother than a knife through hot butter, and the secondary features, like the blocking mechanics and the organic parrying, put games like Sekiro that base their entire combat on single gimmicks to embarrassing shame. It's not that games like those aren't good, they just aren't Ninja Gaiden good. When I reviewed Bayonetta, I remarked that it was at the top of the heap, sharing the distinction only with my favorite series, Devil May Cry. I'd like to formally amend that assessment to declare the Ninja Gaiden series along with the spiritual successor Neo to be part of that conversation as well. Or as I said in my Ninja Gaiden Sigma 1 review, the triple crown of 3D action games. Although these games share a lineage with common ancestry dating back to the arcade fighting era, which is an important distinction to make regarding their faithful fundamentals that focus on shifting the equilibrium in end-to-end battles. They each developed a unique combat philosophy, and so too did Itagaki.
When I say hard, I mean it's that the way he wants his game to be hard is different from other definitions of hard games. It's not that it's hard game to play, as you can feel it's quite easy to play. It's hard, it's because enemies are so smart. Enemies are out there to kill you.
One could easily describe Ninja Gaiden as being beyond sadistic, if not borderline psychotic. But Itagaki over there never stops smiling about how action games are made for people that want to accomplish goals, and that smart game design means everything should be out to kill you, even the ninja dogs. When playtesters for Ninja Gaiden originally remarked that the game was too hard, Itagaki notoriously edited the game to be even harder, and for the purpose of the sequel, Itagaki said, "It must have more demons and enemies." As I pointed out in my Ninja Gaiden Sigma 1 review, there is no such thing as too hard in a game. Although some games don't have a difficulty problem as much as they have poor design issues. Ninja Gaiden has generally great design, and occasionally bullshit design, but the main idea is for the game to be demanding, which doesn't just mean difficult, but inspiring. Even the casual gamer, I feel, would want to master a game like Neo or Ninja Gaiden, because of how wonderfully fun, fluid, and irresistible the combat is. Despite putting the emphasis on efficiency, Ninja Gaiden is courageously complex and dynamic, and at its peak, boasts being almost as much of a spectacle as DMC or Bayonetta, and certainly serves the power trip fantasy as much as any game. But much of its complexity is often rendered impractical, and most fans, even great players, settle for the best tactics to get by effectively. But nonetheless, the complexity remains for those that seek it out. As the game takes you deeper into savage territory, it demands that you master not only the basic techniques, but that you learn to fuse all of them together. Correctly, the game doesn't tell you explicitly what to do in any given situation. It gives you knowledge and trust that you have the intelligence to decipher the puzzles on your own terms, and you're given an impressive arsenal to help put the pieces into their places. Other than the kill or be killed mentality, little about Ninja Gaiden is intuitive, at least not at first. But when you engage with a game along the lines of that arcade fighting game DNA that I mentioned, a lot more starts to make sense. It's all about controlling spaces and respecting hitboxes. Lesser games like God of War will have you just mash the blades of chaos at a distance with little regard for close quarters fundamentals. Other games will have enemies sponge and tank and super armor through all of your attacks, making it a war of attrition and endurance rather than raw technique. Ninja Gaiden is true schizo by putting you and the AI into a blender to see who can cut and claw their way out first. But I've got no complaints about how rabid the enemies are, because it follows the principle of protect yourself at all times, and it applies equally to Ryu and his foes. You should be able to die quickly and also kill quickly, which is largely the case. That's why I prefer pure action games over action RPGs. The arbitrary level scaling and needless gear bonuses complicate things unnecessarily in those games, unless it's Neo, which somehow, someway, makes the exception by tying all elements of design together seamlessly. Ninja Gaiden, however, shows that sometimes substance rests in simplicity. Although upgrade systems still exist here, they are not a prerequisite to success. Success is in the way you move and master the moveset. The meta is to stick and move, sidestepping attacks with precision, countering when possible, and being preemptive. A flying swallow here, a shuriken there, a charged UT to clean up the battlefield, and all manner of ninja trickery in between. Ninja Gaiden 2 still has the occasional missed cues with the camera and the priority lock-on, sometimes putting you in the wrong direction. But I've now come to accept these features as proper design elements. And NG2 does one thing better that I had complained about in NG1, which is that you can now fly and swallow freely without needing to be directly locked on to an enemy, at least with the Dragon Sword. Ninja Gaiden 2 also expands upon the fundamentals of NG1 by introducing the obliteration technique, which most recently could be seen in Wanted Dead, a little indie game made by some ex-Ninja Gaiden developers. It makes for a more tactical approach when dealing with lesser enemies by allowing you to execute a finisher after the RNG effect of dismemberment takes place, putting a pause on the action to thin the herd. You have to be careful though, because these lingering amputees are deceptively dangerous, often hurling themselves into kamikaze attacks if you don't strike first. Another generous refinement is the ability to regain a portion of your health bar over time without the need for direct healing items. There's a sort of tug-of-war going on with the health bar, where the more damage you take in a period of time, the farther it moves semi-permanently into the red, with a temporary void being the amount you stand to replenish after the pause in battle. Because the battles never truly end, they just take a moratorium to do a body count. This feature makes the game's survivability a bit easier in exchange for making every encounter carry a higher risk and reward. It's the closest the game comes to scoring you based on damage received, and I like it even if it reduces the need for survival instincts a bit from the first NG. At least this is true from my experience with Sigma 2. I'm sure that in the original version, this made complete sense. In other aspects, Ninja Gaiden 2 has some noticeable downgrades from NG1, such as the reduced influence on the way that essence moves to you, seemingly reducing the range for which you can chain essence between battles, from what I've noticed. Perhaps this is a good thing because reliance on spamming UTs becomes a bit stale in the grand scheme of things. The karma system is simplified to the point that Master Ninja ranks are essentially just participation trophies for killing all of the enemies in a stage. What I do appreciate here is the ability to play chapter challenge and use all of the upgrades and weapons from the start, whereas the story mode always presents difficulty up front with careful planning and management of resources. The chapter challenge gives us more experimentation. However, like its predecessor, it mysteriously lacks the ability to switch weapons in real time. How bizarre from one of the fastest paced games ever made to not have real-time weapon switching, which hurts the pacing a tad bit. Or some would remark a lack of innovation between the two titles. Ninja Gaiden 2 set out to be bigger, bolder, and more vicious, but consistency is key, and Ninja Gaiden 2 maintains that virtue throughout, for the most part. The man-sized enemies have a habit of attacking with the same techniques as Ryu, such as a flying swallow and the big Kahuna Azuna, maybe the most spectacular move ever conceived in a video game. These shared mechanics make the combat more digestible because of the equal and opposite reactions that everything poses. What you can do to enemies can be done to you, making it feel believable like a true system. And of course, with mastery, you can go above and beyond by breaking the equilibrium to your own will, but not haphazardly or the game will humble you. Even a game over screen knows how to troll you. I love how the game reassures the player humorously through lore that many warriors in training at first struggled with grasping the way of the ninja compared to their peers. Even action veterans experience a learning curve with Ninja Gaiden because Team Ninja games are not out to baby the players. Itagaki is trying to breed winners, to give the players a true sense of satisfaction and exhilaration. As much as Ninja Gaiden tries to put you down, I'm someone that believes in never giving up, a sense of stubbornness born from conviction more than pride. As much as Team Ninja takes pride in making gamers suffer, I was never going to let Itagaki get the best of me. Somehow, I think he's secretly rooting for the players to succeed, but only if they believe in themselves. Mastering patience and, in the darkest hour, using every cheap trick to counter the ones the game uses. One of the levels, and you know if you've done this yourself, clocks in at only 8 minutes long, and it must have taken me 12 hours to get past it. If you know, then you know. Once I realized that the arena was reused for Neo 2, I knew I had to beat this cursed black dragon, even if the AI partner was damn near useless from start to finish. But it's just a game, and games can be beaten. Ninja Gaiden is the type of game to make you lose your hair on your head from all the rage, just to make you grow it back on your balls from all the testosterone unleashed when you conquer this labyrinth made by lunatics. It'll give you a second puberty, assuming you went through one the first time, and it will make you rethink what video games can be. Video games are all about death around every corner. No cutscenes unless you have big explosions and big jigglies. And no matter how elaborate or simple the stages and the stakes are, you, as the player, have to be able to perform. It's the reason you play video games with a controller. You are the star of the show. It was interesting for Ninja Gaiden 2 to include an anime-style storyboard, maybe as a promotional material for some other Ninja Gaiden spin-off. This Ninja Gaiden prologue plays predictably with the tug-of-war between the hero and the villain. This is why games are so much better than any other form of media, because you get to be the one to initiate the drama and serve the resolution. The suspense is not in what happens, but whether you can make it happen. Video games are learning experiences, a progression not only from checkpoint to checkpoint or chapter to chapter, but from barely scraping by to arriving upon a flow state where play becomes second nature. There's a degree of memorization here as always, and any gun encounter design plays like a fiddle, but Ninja Gaiden, like fighting games, operates on a heavy dose of RNG as well. Enemy behavior is complex, yet able to be manipulated at the right time and place. Hit stun is acceptable and accessible, but the higher tier bosses require more precise, if not inconsistent, timing on attacks. Above all, the tempo is there for you to initiate. Itagaki wanted to design battles that felt like ballets in constant motion. Although you can be stylish, Ryu is often too busy trying to stay alive than to worry about mixing up his attacks. The idea remains the same, to keep the combos going. What I've come to notice about Team Ninja games is that the more you play them, spend time within them, and study them, the less bullshit they seem. There's an answer or two for almost every troublesome situation, and Itagaki doesn't care if you abuse tactics as long as you don't feel cheap using them. He surely doesn't feel too cheap throwing you up against 3 bosses at the same time. Whether or not the design is perfect misses a bigger point. It has a unique identity, one based on testing the player as much in the big moments as the small ones. One of the things the Souls games get credit for is for making the endgame destination so hard to earn. But I fear that a more important experience is the journey that we're missing out on in most modern games. The variety is in the way you play. The feeling is in the way you flow, and there's never a situation that the developers put you in that is too grim to overcome with proper training. Players will share techniques, but every encounter feels different, and no 2 players will have the same experience. Ninja Gaiden's difficulty is not in special boss encounters, but the entire package of room after room of death traps. The enemies are harder than the bosses because that is smart stage design. If you can't get past the enemies, how can you get to the boss? Team Ninja sure knows how to set the stage with beautiful big titty women to bring out the best in us, among the backdrops composed of intricate architecture in the world's alpha cities and the world's most alpha gameplay. One minute we're in futuristic Tokyo, a gauntlet of a first level. The next we're in Venice, a colossal airship, Vietnam, and the gate to hell. It's inspiring how gorgeous and diverse the levels are in a Ninja Gaiden game, so much so to the attention paid to lesser details like the hypnotic art style or the exquisite music, setting tempo for the action with its non-stop build-up to a climax, are especially commendable almost beyond evaluation considering how superb the core gameplay is, but I'd give them all 10s. It makes you wonder how modern Team Ninja, with the exception of the Neo games, lost so much of their flair along these lines. For a game to look this stylish and to hold this degree of individuality in the year 2008 is a testament to the classic era of game design when designers were out to prove themselves and earn recognition from gamers above all. It's a game that I never played before, the last few weeks, but it feels like I have, maybe because it was made during the classic era when creativity, not algorithms, dictated successful trends. It's tempting to call Ninja Gaiden 2, even in the Sigma state, a masterpiece, and while it falls short of that distinction by the numbers, it arguably achieves a near-flawless state of fighting, almost inimitably so, which is the most essential component a game can have. On top of all the other elements, the atmosphere and charm, it's in the upper echelon of all-time great games for sure. Even the weaker elements that action games aren't known for, and for good reason, are vastly improved here, like the narrative. Genshin and Elizabeth build tension throughout the game as memorable rivals to Ryu. The screen time spent on the 4 Archfiends is likewise full of fun moments. They each have contrasting personalities. Alexei is a narcissist with some of the most unpredictable attack patterns you'll see. You fight Wolf in a giant coliseum in Rome, filled to the brim with werewolves, that is interrupted by a barrage of missiles from a big-titty helicopter pilot. Sidonius is some kind of demonic Shakespeare, and Genshin just doesn't know when to quit, but his persistence, like that of Kuze in the Yakuza games, is admirable. And Elizabeth, though she is sexy, is just a bitch. Ryu doesn't say much, but he sure looks fire, and the ladies prefer to show, not tell. There's just so much style in these cutscenes that, like Bayonetta, although the story isn't very deep, it is satisfactory in all the right ways. Short, sweet, stylish, and full of badass action moments, up there with some of the best action films ever made. We even get to see old man Muramasa shit on the ninja cavalry like he was cutting down bamboo, and then he pats Ryu on the stomach as if to say affectionately, "This is how it's done, sonny." This game is awesome. The best thing I can see about the gem of the Gaiden is that no matter what kind of slump you're in, the deepest slumber can be disrupted by a single strike of this game. The darkness hanging over the state of video games requires only for us to look back at the past. And if Ninja Gaiden 4 is any hope for the return of classic game design, maybe the darkness is destined to lift and the action genre will rise again.
He's a Class A ninja. Repeat, we have a Class A ninja.
I forget what happened.
Kill that damn ninja.
Calm yourself, Elizabeth.
It's Genshin,
Yes.
his rival ninja. And this bitch has big titties too. We'll see her later on. Evil big titty bitch. Evil but big titties, so I kind of like her.
Lots of enemies, but they're all stupid enemies, you know. They're just standing there, so you can cut them up, and you feel good. If you're gonna do that, might as well cut vegetables.